Hello and welcome to another video, and today I thought I would take the time. Yes, it's another Halo video, but not the one that you're expecting. And that is, I had an opportunity to watch the first episode of Paramount Plus's Halo TV series. And I wanted to discuss it today, kind of do like a impromptu review of it, as you will. This is an interesting one. This is a show that has basically been in like production hell since 2013 when it was originally announced. When Xbox and Microsoft and Xbox had this huge push towards television content. If you remember back in the original Xbox One reveal, they were hard pushing original programming. Two of the big things were this Halo show and then Quantum Break. And obviously we know what happened with Quantum Break, what that became. But the Halo show has always existed since 2013 in some form. Or, you know, originally it was going to be an exclusive thing, and then it kind of shifted over to being a Showtime show, and then Paramount Plus picked it up, you know, inevitably for what it is today. And there's been some controversy surrounding this show before it premiered. Some interesting decisions. One of the biggest being this show does not take place in the same timeline as Halo we all know. They have decided to create the Silver timeline, which is basically a excuse to let them do whatever they want to do with these characters and the story and the plot of Halo. They can do whatever they want while keeping the existing characters and lore that you know and kind of pulling from it. So we've seen other television shows do this when they're adapting something that already exists. Do I think it's a good idea? Yes and no. And we'll dive into that for sure. So just off the top, what did I think of the first episode of this? Well, I didn't hate it, and I went into it expecting to outright hate this because everything coming out before the show premiered was extremely negative, and it wasn't as bad as I expected it to be, but I also don't love it, and I don't think it's great. And we'll dive into some of those reasons. So before I get into that, let's talk about what I do like about the show. It's super violent. So Halo to me has always been a very PG rated, maybe pushing a little bit towards a PG-13. More recent entries are more PG than they are PG-13. But it's always been a PG to PG-13, and this show is very R-rated in terms of violence. I mean, in the first 10 minutes, there's a group of teenagers that is literally slaughtered by Covenant. I'm talking, you're seeing arms and legs and heads blown off, you're seeing people explode. Like, it was shocking. Like, it wasn't what I expected. Not that I'm not used to seeing that level of violence from other things that I watch, but I wasn't expecting that level here. And I applaud it. You know, it gives it more of a grounded sense. I think also making that so shocking for the first episode, especially the first 10 minutes, it's really setting the tone that the Covenant are a group that is to be feared, especially for people that maybe have never played the games, which it really seems like this show is more geared towards that crowd than it is fans of the game series. In this period, you also get introduced to Master Chief, and I'll be perfectly honest, I was not a fan of the idea of having a different actor portray Master Chief. One thing that always rubs me the wrong way is when you take something from an existing actor who's still alive, still doing the character, and give it to somebody else. This isn't like a James Bond or a Batman type scenario. This I liken more to like Sam Fisher. Splinter Cell would be a good example of like that dude, you know, has been the voice of Sam Fisher for years and years and years, and then 2013's Blacklist, completely different actor. Obviously we found out later the reason why, but I couldn't accept that. And here I was kind of feeling that way. Honestly, for most of it, I think Pablo Schreiber, that's the actor's name, I think he's honestly okay. I'm leaning towards he's okay to good. I kind of had the same feeling as I do about Henry Cavill as The Witcher, where like I look at least in that sense, I look at him and go, man, he's a really good Witcher. It's a shame he's stuck in a shitty TV show. Here, I think what Pablo does with the character Master Chief, I think he's okay. Like, I really didn't have a problem with his performance, other than one part, which we'll get to in the negatives I have about this show. His performance was fine. Other actors and stuff in this show, I think, do fine with what they're given. So, and I really I really think that some of the CG is pretty good. Some of it isn't very good. But the stuff that does hits pretty well. I also like that they used all the classic sound effects from the game. In that first sequence when Master Chief's fighting the Covenant, you hear like the shields go down, the shields charge up, you hear the wort from the Covenant, you hear all these things that you've heard for years and years being a fan of the game. I really like that they kept that instead of just creating their own thing, and I thought that was cool. That's kind of really it for positives. Let's talk about the negatives. I kind of mentioned it at the top, the silver timeline. What are we doing? Like, I get making your own timeline to make your own stories with these characters, but when you have, especially the first 3 Halos, such a great trilogy of story and lore to pull from, I think making your own timeline to do whatever you want is a stupid decision. Also, not only that, you have years of books that have been really good books. The Fall of Reach, for example, really good content there you can pull from as well. Instead, creating your own thing to do your own thing, I don't think that's going to work very well. Again, this is just the pilot, so this show could go really off the rails, and for now, I'm probably going to stick with it just to see where it ends up this first season. I might do like a recap at the end of the first season and then fully say like, this show is trash, or maybe it'll turn around. I don't know. Biggest negative on this show that I have 2. The first, as I alluded to in the positives, Master Chief takes off his helmet, and I'm in the camp that he should never take off his helmet. We've seen the helmet come off in the games, but you never see his face fully. You'll see like maybe a side shot. You'll see like his eyes, like he did in Halo 4 if you beat the Legendary campaign, which I thought was really cool, but you never see his face. And I think what's more alarming here is like, if you were going to see Master Chief's face, like there's going to be some scars. He's going to be bald. There's going to be some heavy years of heavy lifting behind that helmet, and this just looks like a dude in a cosplay suit, and that put me down. And the fact that not only did he take off the helmet in the first episode, mind you, but he leaves it off for like 15 minutes of this episode, and I'm just like, I can't do this. So that is bad. They should not have done that. I mean, take a stance from The Mandalorian. In Mandalorian Season 1, minor spoilers, they do take his helmet off briefly, and I thought that was a mistake. They shouldn't have done it. But in the second season, he's in a situation where he has no choice, and he had to take his helmet off. That part of the show at that given time, I felt was the right time to show his face, and it was earned by the audience of like, hey, we can show what this dude's face looks like, whereas in the first season there was no reason to do it. So here, like, Master Chief's a character that never shows his face, and I don't think they should have done it, let alone the first episode of your TV show. Like, holy shit, man. So that's the biggest problem I have with the other big problem is there is a human element to the Covenant in this show, and I don't know what the character's name is. If they said it, I didn't retain it. But they have a scene where they show one of the prophets speaking to this high-ranking Covenant member who happens to be a human. And the first problem I have with that is the Covenant would never let a human that high in their ranks. They hate humanity. And I feel like it's just a plot device to get the audience to sympathize with the Covenant a little bit and try to understand them more as a character rather, as a faction. More than just, hey, this alien group that hates humanity. Well, now we have this human element to it. I really dislike that. I don't think that character is good, and I think that's going to speak volumes for the show going forth, because we shouldn't have done that. Like, it's a problem, and it also shows a very huge lack of understanding about the source material. Now, a lot of the information that I see out there is that the writers behind this show have never played these games and basically watched a sizzle reel of trailers and content, like cutscenes and stuff from the games, and then pulled ideas from it to make this TV show, which is not a good idea. Never a good idea. That's almost like, cutting up a bunch of names and throwing in a hat and just pulling out names at random to throw in your TV show. That's really what it is to me. So, I personally, I wanted to make this video for the channel because I'm a massive Halo fan, as you guys know. I mean, just go back and look in the last 6 months how many Halo Infinite videos I put out. So there was no way I wasn't gonna watch at least the first episode of the show. It's a mixed bag. I'm not going to put a review score on it because it's just the first episode of a 9-episode season of a TV show, so I don't think it's fair to grade it just on this one episode. Maybe I'll return to it once all the episodes have aired, and I'll give it a letter grade, and we can discuss, like, should this show still exist or should they abandon it. It has already been picked up for a second season, which it shows them that they're interested in this game's. It shows that they're interested in this TV show and they have a lot of force behind it, but is it going to actually be pulled off at the end? I don't know. So anyways, I'd love to know in the comments below, did you like the Halo TV show episode that's been out yet? Did you hate it? Are you not watching it at all? Who knows? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.